the prosecutor that he demanded gets fired, or he will not give them $1 billion, and they got 6 hours to make a decision, and he's on tape, as you just heard, bragging. Hang on, I gotta fix my tie. He's on tape there bragging how he got the guy fired. Well, who was that prosecutor investigating at that moment? John Solomon.
Yeah. Yep, you're right. At that very moment, Ukrainian authorities tell me they were preparing to request an interview with Hunter Biden to question him about more than $3 million of funds that were being transferred out of Ukraine into accounts in the United States tied to Hunter Biden and his company. And when the vice president intervened, the prosecutor got fired. They moved the case out of the prosecutor's office to another agency. They shut it down, and it was swept under the rug, never to be investigated again.
Okay, so his son was being investigated. Do we know how much money? Now, I understand his son was actually on the Air Force II, right?
This is going to China. That's a different trip. Yeah, Peter Schweitzer did some great work back about a trip, I think it was in 2014, where Hunter Biden went on the same trip with his dad to China and walked away with a big payday in China as well. So there's a pattern here of Hunter Biden being in the countries where the vice president has a foreign policy portfolio and somehow walking off with some nice paydays.
Okay, so they're walking off with a nice payday. Hunter Biden obviously is there in China on Air Force II, at least in that one instance. Right. As Peter Schweitzer talks about. But in this particular case, so the vice president of the United States tells them, you fire the prosecutor, and we know beyond any doubt that that prosecutor that he's bragging about, that he got fired, or he was going to use American taxpayer money as leverage, that he did it to save his son from the prosecutor who was investigating him?
That's certainly what the Ukrainian authorities believe. And they're telling me tonight, Sean, that they've been trying to get this information to the U.S. Justice Department for more than 6 months and have not yet been able to get a receptive audience. But they have a lot more evidence than what they told me in the interviews in this column. And I think that they're very concerned that a sovereign nation, the United States, interfered in a legitimate investigation. And it isn't the first time, they say. They said this was a regular practice of the U.S. Embassy to get involved in their criminal investigations and tell them who they could and couldn't prosecute.
Do we know how much money we're talking about here?
Well, we know for sure because FBI, separate of the Ukrainian investigation, the FBI introduced records in a trial last year in New York City that showed that Hunter Biden's company got at least $3 million, actually a little bit more, almost closer to $3.2 million from Burisma Holdings, the natural gas company in Ukraine between 2014 and 2015, the very same time that Joe Biden was in charge of all U.S.-Ukraine relations. Remember, President Obama gave him a special job and said, you take care of this Ukrainian crisis, you're my designee for it. So while Joe Biden's overseeing it, his son is walking in with his cash.
I think we have a lot to investigate, and I think crazy, creepy Uncle Joe has bigger problems besides him grabbing and kissing anybody and rubbing noses and smelling hair. John Solomon.